Hey guys, got a Ram here, not sure what year it is just yet, probably about 15 or 16. Just here for some minor touch-up work. Got a scratch in the fender here, it's starting to rust. He wants to take care of that. This thing is a pearl, possibly tri-coat I think it is. So I can blend that, and not a problem, I won't have to go into the door, but I gotta get the flare off and the emblem. He wants to try to repair this if I can get just this part. We have to get a used mirror. Side swiped something on the bed here, got some damage on the wheel arch molding, and right here on the bed panel itself there's a slight crease right here. I think I might be able to work that out, or either use just some glaze on it and blend that direction. So I won't need a whole lot of paint. This will have to come off anyway, so I told him that I'd just go ahead and do that. He didn't even see it for some reason. So we added that. The tailgate has got some scratches up here from the trailer. A trailer he had popped off the ball, I think, with the tailgate down. And there's a scuff in this flare here, so we're gonna do those 4 places. So the flare there, the tailgate, side of the bed there, that'll include that, and this part of the fender. While it's out here, I'm going to go ahead and wash these panels. I may wait till I get the trim off to wash it. That might even be better. That way I can get most of the dirt that's trapped in there. I think that's about it. Just some minor work, but it'll be a pretty good paying job for what I've got here. Okay, I've just gone through and wiped it all down just to clean it up and see what I'm working with here. And I've taken pictures with a ruler laying here where these ended up being, where they need to go back. This will just lose, and this will locate itself. It's actually in a recess, so not a problem there. Go ahead and pull these off and flip it over and get all the fasteners out of this and the top cap. Then I can start actually cleaning the panel down and start sanding these scratches out. It's really not a lot, it's mostly just right here, but there is a little damage I'll have to tap. You can see, to tap some of this high spot right here down, and I think there's a little spot right above it. Won't be much to this one. It'll be more de-trim and putting trim back on it than anything. All right, that's off. And all this extra adhesive and all will come off with lacquer thinner, which is what I have in here. I'll just wipe all that off. I already took this one off over here. And dealer sticker. So I just need to flip it over here in a minute and get the access plate off the back to get the rest of it off. Alright, just about got everything off. I don't want to have to remove this cover. I may loosen on this side just to get this piece here off, or at least pop it up, but I may have to just lift it and mask it if I can't get this cover off easily. I'm not taking the whole thing off. Just need to wash all this. This is the only repair right in here, but I want to make sure I do a complete job, so everything's going to be off. I took this loose here. This thing has got some screws behind it and with a cover on it that's bonded with foam to the bedside. So I'm going to leave this and just mask it. There's no reason to even clear this. But I had to stick, since the fuel door bumpers are mounted to this plastic bezel, I just stuck a bolt here with a nut just to space it off the body enough that I can mask it off and just spray clear over this area. Front, got the emblem and flare off. All I have to do is sand out the scratch here, prime this area. I'll probably leave the headlight in it. Scuffs here. This is the right front flare. One scuffs along here. A lot of this will probably come off with some paint thinner. But right in here is a slight dent. You can see that. A little bit of damage. And of course the tailgate. Right in here. Just a couple places. There's a slight dent here that I'm going to try to push out. Not have to fill it. But I will have to fill some of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get the plastic repairs done first. Here and here. And the rest of these will be steel repairs. So I'm going to do those last so that the steel is exposed to the air for a minimal amount of time. So I'm going to go ahead and do these. Get the filler on it. And then come over here. Do this one in the fender and the tailgate where I need filler. I'll need a little bit of filler, maybe right in here in this scratch is a little bit of a depression. And then on the tailgate. So I'll get that filler at least on there, come back to these two pieces, get them prepped for primer, come back, prep these for primer, then I can prime right at the end, all of it. So I'm gonna wash these panels on the truck, then I'll wash the flares and start getting the repairs done. Okay, I've got these things cleaned up. Enough to do the body work at least. I've got them wiped down with thinner also to get all the paint transfer off here. Pretty much all this came off. That tan yellow colored transfer. There's a little bit of a scratch there you can see in the clear, but it's not very deep. It's just once I got the paint off, I found that, so that'll come out with the primer. But I prime this. But I got to get that little bit of a dent out. I don't even think you'd notice that, but I'm gonna go ahead and put some filler in it because I'll have filler out on this. I can't really sand. Probably can't sand all of this out completely, or I'll take too much plastic off. And I don't want to start dishing it out and losing the body line, so I'll get it down as best I can, and then I'll have to fill what's left of the scratches with plastic repair, but that should be perfectly fine. The truck's out there drying. I'm gonna go ahead and get these done while it's out there drying and then pull it back in here. That'll give me more room to work on this, and I'll start on the truck and the tailgate. All right, I've got some 180 on a fine throw DA. I'm just gonna dish it out. Well, not necessarily dish it out, but feather it out. Pretty much this whole entire area is gonna be exposed plastic because I want the exposed plastic to extend beyond where I'm gonna put the filler, because I don't want to put any of this plastic filler on the paint. So I'm just gonna take all of this damage out and then come out a little further down to plastic. I may have some paint left in here, but I don't want to put any filler on that, so I'll peel it all back, get it smooth, and I'll spray Adhesion Promoter on it before I get the plastic repair compound on it. You get the idea, I think, there, but I'm just going to feather everything out to expose this entire damaged area, get the paint off, and then I'll try to keep the sander flat. And try to keep the sander flat in this area, and then flat on this. This is kind of curved here, but I'm going to try to keep it on either side of that body line. And I'll sand out as much as I can with keeping the sander flat, but I don't want to go too deep into the plastic. Okay, we're good to go here. I just need to go through and hand sand in this groove that they decided they needed to put in here to get the paint out. I only need some filler like right in this little scratch, if any. I think the primer will get that actually. Mainly just right here. These little scratches here, most of it all came out. So I won't need to do anything really but fill in the scratch. I don't need to build any at all. Just fill it in and then the primer will take care of the rest. Now, actually this will shrink down probably a little and won't be, you know, completely flawless once this is done, but I don't want to sand all this out and have to build it up. With it being white, you'll never see it. Still need to do the same thing here. I will have to build this slightly, but that'll be fine too. Won't take much. Just that one little spot. Okay, ready to go. I'm blowing it off. I have to crank the pressure up to about 80 to 90 just to get it completely clean. You don't want to solvent wipe this open plastic. It'll absorb it. So all you want to do is blow it off. You can take a dry paper towel and wipe it as you blow it. That'll take a little more dust off, but you don't want to wet it with anything. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to spray down with 5907. Let's see if I got it in here. Yeah, 5907. This is for the plastic repair adhesive to stick. So I'll spray that on and give it 5 or 10 minutes, whatever the can says. I think it's 10 minutes. And hit these two spots, that one and the one over there, with some plastic filler, and let that sit while I work on the truck. All right, it's just a light mist of this. We'll do the entire plastic area just to make sure I don't miss anything. That's all you need. You don't need to wet it. Give that 10 minutes, and it's about 70 or so. Let's see. 66. So I may need to give it about 12 or 13 minutes or so just to be safe, but about 8 or 9 minutes into it, I'll get the glue out and get it ready to go. So those few minutes it takes me to get it ready, and it'll be right on the time it needs to flash this off. I'm going to put tape along this edge, keep the plastic filler from getting over here. Same thing over there. Okay, I put a little filler down in this little tiny dent. It's the only place it really needed it. So I went down to the metal there. The rest of it's just down through to where I got the scratches out. So I only need filler, I think it was right here next to the dent, and a little bit right there. So I'll put glaze over this area once that hardens up, but the rest of the truck won't need any body filler, so I went ahead and mixed that. So while that's setting up, I'll go ahead and work on the truck, and I'll come back to this when I get the glaze out. I'll put glaze on everything at once. Okay, we're ready to go here. Got this ready for epoxy just over this bare metal right here. Same thing up here over this, where this big, basically looked like you got cut with something. It wasn't just a chip. Tailgate's ready to go. So to save a little time, what I'm going to do is spray the epoxy over just the bare metal, then come back and mask off the rest of it for the high build primer. Now these flares don't need any epoxy at all. They just need some adhesion promoter later. So right before I get the actual high build primer out, about 20 minutes before that, I'll put some adhesion promoter on the flares, and that way these can be primed when I do the other primer, so they don't need any epoxy for now. So they can sit there until I get ready to do the actual primer. But I'll come back and mask off the area for the high build once I just mist a little epoxy over the metal. I'm not going to get it anywhere but right in here. I'll just turn the gun way down like a spray can. Same thing here. I'll come back and mask down in here for the high build. But for right now, I just need to mist a little epoxy over it. So I'll mask it off while it's drying. I went ahead and masked off the headlight and hood since they're so close to it. Had to do it anyway. I actually don't normally spray this, or don't like to spray this with my primer gun because it's so thin and likes to run. But since I've got to get the primer in it, it keeps me from having to clean the other gun. Clean the gun out and switch to another gun. I just clean one gun. That'll be it. Just got to sit there for about an hour. So at about 45 minutes or so, about 40 minutes in, I'll get some adhesion promoter on these, since that's got to sit there for about 20 minutes. And then I'll be putting the first coat on all of this. And then when I get ready for the first coat on the flares, that adhesion promoter will be ready to go. So this will I'll get an hour here, but I'll start 40 minutes from now to get the flares ready to go. See you in just a second. Okay, it's time for this adhesion promoter. This is the actual Chromax A2330S that you're supposed to use under their primer on flexible plastics. But it sprays really gritty, so I only use it when I'm going to block out primer. It actually looks like it's got dust in it because the solids in it don't break up completely. I've actually tacked this off already, but I'm going to spray it this direction so I don't get it underneath. It's got a green-gray tint to it. So what I'm going to do is try to use this stuff up under primer as I get work in that needs it. You can see the grittiness. But when I use this under sealer over a raw bumper, I end up having to go sand that back out. You don't need a full wet coat. You just need to get about a medium coat on it, enough for it to work. You don't want to wet it out too much, just like the other like XXX and all that you normally use. That will go on everything that's clear. I'm trying to use this stuff up. That needs 25 minutes. That's another reason I don't like it. It takes forever. I'm gonna get the primer mixed up in about 15 or 20 minutes. It'll give me about 5 minutes to mix it up, and then I can start putting it on the truck, and then it can go directly over that. All right, we're ready to spray now. I've got my white primer, so I don't have to seal anything, and I'll be able to get good coverage really quick, probably just 2 coats. Don't know if I showed you or not, but there was a chip right on this edge, so I went ahead and fixed that when I was priming everything else. So I've got to make sure I've got color here and down here. I can't forget about that. So now that I'm going to have color here, I'm going to wrap it around, just blend it on this corner. And this down here, I'll end up having to come all the way around to cover all this. So I've got to remember when I do the tailgate to blend this direction. I'll end up having to go across the top anyway, but I got to remember to come down to match this. So what I'll do is I'll just blend this entire left half of the gate and then run the color across the top, and that way the color across the other end will still match here if there's any variance at all. I don't want to run any color that way if I don't have to, so I'll sort of do like a 45-degree blend. It'll come all the way over my repair, about 2/3 of the way over that way, and I'll blend through here so that it's consistent and it matches this, but I'll have a blend angle about like this. I've got this masked off. I could just clear it, but there's no reason to put any paint on it, so I just put some tape on there instead of adding paint to something that doesn't need it. I've just got this popped up. Taking this tonneau assembly off would have been a lot more work than I quoted him to do. I wasn't prepared for that. But I got that up enough where I can just paint all the way in past it. It'll be just fine. And I've wrapped this thing in 2 separate pieces. Typically it's really hard to mask off right in here on the truck, so I just wrap the cab itself forward and mask it, and then I do the bed separately. Just works out better. Front fender's ready to go. Just got to blend this front corner back. And I've got the 2 flares. So this one had a repair right in the middle. So I'll blend, well, not blend, I'm not going to blend this. I'm just going to paint the whole flare. That way there's no inconsistencies in it. And this one right here, goes on the other side of the truck, the right front. So there's not going to be a fender here to match it to. So I could blend it on back. I may blend it just back towards the bottom to save a little paint, but I'm gonna come all the way across the top just so I don't have any visible blend up here. I can just do it down there, and I've got plenty of paint to do that. I don't have enough room to do the tailgate, so it'll be done separately tomorrow. I'm gonna get this wiped down with water-based wax and grease remover, and then go back with solvent base after that. And just get after it. Okay, this is Adhesion Promoter for being able to blend the base coat out and give it something wet to land into. It also helps clear stick. I'm gonna go ahead and get it tacked off, and I'll put that on all the parts where I need to blend. I'm gonna keep it off the primer. It will actually dissolve the feather edges and map through the paint later on, so I'm just gonna go around the primer. I'll be back in a few minutes with the base. Okay, since I have to do the top and the bottom around the taillight pocket, I'm just going to bring the paint all the way around the taillight pocket right in here, just so that I don't have a kind of a halo of color right in here. I'll just bring it around the top and bring all the way around here, and I'll end up blending like right in this area all the way down. It's going to take at least 2 coats. I can still see through that, so we'll get that about 10 or 15 minutes to flash, and we'll go do the fender and the flares. I'll be back with the clear. Okay, it's time for clear now. It's in the mid-60s in here, so I'm gonna have to give this about 10 to 15 minutes between coats. This one's already had about probably 5, something like that. I'm gonna get some more clear mixed up in a second. Hit it with a second coat. You gotta be really careful out here in this area. There's no base coat to kind of wick up the clear coat to hold it in place. So it'll more easily run out there where you don't have any base. All my base is kind of contained back in this area. Well, everything turned out pretty nice. I'll just have to denib. The actual finish is perfectly fine, since most of this was just straight over, clear straight over, flat original clear. Did get one tiny bug land in it right there after it was starting to set up, but I'll have to just buff him off, sand the clear down and get him all out of there. He came in at the very end after the second coat was applied, so he shouldn't be all the way through it. It's turned out pretty nice as well. Perfect texture. Just gonna take out some minor dust nibs. Aren't too many. Here's the flares. The repair here turned out nice. Hard to see that one. I'm gonna go get the heat lamp. Let's start with the heat lamp over here so that I can get that area to cure first, so I can buff it out. I'll have to wait till tomorrow though. Okay, we're ready to go on the tailgate. I'm gonna spray the 222S over the entire gate except the primer, just like I did on the truck. All right, base coat next. I'm just going to focus on getting coverage over the primer, and then I'll do the blend after that. Just putting it on lightly so I don't get any of that feather edge mapping through. And I'll just build it up until I get it covered, and then I'll do the blend. Right, on the next coat, I'll actually wrap it around the edges, but I only need one coat there, so be back when I'm done with that. Okay, all done. I've pulled all the masking paper and everything off already and heat cured it with the infrared light. I'm gonna let this sit here overnight before I handle it, do everything else to the truck that I can today. I decided to leave this on just because it was probably going to do more damage to it, me digging it off there than around this edge than I really wanted to risk. So I just taped it off really well and got around it with a fiberglass pin. And with that adhesion promoter around it, it'll stick. It'll be just fine. When we get the rest of the truck together, get any dust nibs out that I need to take out of it, and have this ready to just sit on there tomorrow and put the guts back in it. All right, ready to go. Customer will be here in about an hour. Give you a quick walk around. Painted the tailgate. This bedside. There's a little scratch on the bumper here, but he was going to leave that. Mainly just wanted to stop the panel from rusting. Did that flare. Did very minimal buffing, just a few dust nibs here and there, but I left the texture. Since all this was basically just sprayed over flat clear, it's almost a flow coat. Didn't really need anything. Also did this, no, not this flare, this fender. It'd be hard to see this one. I just blended the front edge there. Color matched really well. And did this flare over here. I've got a 2021 Hyundai that's coming for a door skin. That ought to be a good one. I'll see you when I do that one.